if you haven't become world champion after, say, 200 Grand Prix, or maybe 300 Grand Prix, you have to retire.
Yeah.
Now, so now we've got quite a good thing. So at the beginning of the season, you'll know that this is Hulkenberg's last year.
Yeah.
He has to retire. So every Grand Prix, he had his little fan club and waves goodbye to Germany, waves goodbye to Spain, And we know there's going to be a spare seat as well. So maybe the Formula 2 champion might be thinking, I could have that seat. And then he can go off, have a wonderful career, earning more millions of pounds as a world sports car driver, or go to IndyCar. So it's not the end of his racing life. But look, you've had flipping 200 races in that seat.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Car Chat podcast. I'm Sam Moores. And with me this week, I have Tiff. Hello.
Good morning, afternoon, or wherever you're listening to or watching this from, evening, night.
There's a pro right there. He's preaching to all of the audience. Tiff, can you tell the listeners, for those that maybe don't know who you are, probably maybe somewhere, a little bit about sort of who you are and what you do, sort of short summary?
Well, I'm most famous as the bloke that drives cars sideways on television. After 15 years on Top Gear and 15 years on Fifth Gear and about 10 years on YouTube channels, I still want to be known as a former racing driver who made the Grand Prix grids back in 1980, did 14 Le Mans 24-hour races, and still just wants to be a racing driver and not a TV tart.
So in your mind, you are a racing driver first?
Only. Not just first. I mean, no, only. I just do things on telly as well. I'm not a journalist. Oh, people think journalist. I wouldn't know how to write a sentence. I used to do a column actually on Top Gear magazine, and the columns in front of me were Jeremy Clarkson, Quentin Wilson, and me. And they were wordsmiths with wonderful, as you know, Jeremy. Jeremy could write a column in about 5 minutes about a matchbox. And knowing that I followed them once a month for Top Gear magazine, the great Top Gear magazine of the 90s. And about 2 weeks before my column, I would start worrying, what am I going to write? What am I going to do? Oh, gosh. And I'd write one sentence and have another cup of coffee and come back and edit it. It'd take me about 3 days, terrified of following these two great wordsmiths. So I hate writing.
Do you still hate writing? I guess, do you ever have to write something?
Well, scripts, I just did a bit for Drive Tribe. I'm on their YouTube channel occasionally as well. So I did a script on a couple of stories I did for them.
Mm.
And again, you read magazines now, I mean, Top Gear or any magazine, and the amount of words, the pages they write, about some boring road car, which I'd say, it's got 4 wheels, it handles not that well, and it's cheap, but it's got a nice steering wheel or something. And they go into great eulogies and wandering and wordsmiths. They do write a lot. It's like columns in newspapers, to be honest, which I quite often read. But I'll read the first sort of half a page, 3 minutes of reading, and I sort of got the gist. And then I start scrolling up, and it's got about another 5 pages, and I just stop reading them. I can't believe how often. I think it's a bit like podcasts. I think sometimes people go, or even edited, crash highlights on YouTube. If one's 3 minutes, I'll watch it. If one's 26 minutes, no, I won't bother to watch it. Because if you get drawn into 26 minutes, you don't want to be drawn into 26. Then you'll waste 26 minutes of your life watching car crashes. Fail Army. I love Fail Army. It used to be 5 minutes. I think the Fail Army videos are now about 20, 25 minutes. I don't want to be drawn in. So I don't play video games at all because I know I'll get drawn in. No, I want to go quicker on my next lap. No, I can't replaying them. So no. Less words.
Less words, shorter. I find that completely with magazines. Like I sort of get Autocar and stuff like that. Just kind of feel like I should. And there'll be like a 3-page review of a car, and you're like, but it's not that interesting.
Well, also they tend to do sections. As long as a section handling interior, design, cost, I like those. So you chunk it up. So then you just go straight to the bit you want. And whilst I'm on this rant now, you find I rant a lot. It's the worst thing that people say, John Smith on pole position for the Formula 3 race, which I'm interested in the Formula 3 race after qualifying. But all as a real enthusiast I want is the results.
Yeah.
Then you can waffle on. But sometimes you'll read a whole page of, someone else then took pole with 5 minutes of the session left, and then Johnson. And they get to the bottom, and they haven't pasted or posted the results. So I've read all this waffle. I don't want all that waffle. Give me the results. Then if I want to read your waffle, I will. Just give us the facts.
That's so true. And there was a period of time when, I'm pretty sure it was like this in F1, and it's definitely been like this in football stuff, where they didn't show the score.
Yeah.
You had to have followed to know...
Follow the story. Yeah,
to know the score. And you're like, everyone tunes in and they go, well, I need to know where I'm starting from.
Some websites, websites, like every formula or they have a website now. And they're just so much waffle. And I'm just trying to get through the results. Or, it's very frustrating.
What motorsports do you follow at the moment?
Well, all of them. So my little podcast on Monday nights with Love Cars on the grid, as we call it. And what I want to do is spread the world's understanding of motorsport. Yeah. This Formula One obsession, because they've all watched some fictitious, stupid thing called Drive to Survive, whatever it was, which I haven't watched. They think, the people are just zoning on Formula One. So if you do a headline, what's an algorithms, it's called Formula Verstappen's rubbish. You might get a million views, 100,000 views. If you sort of say Marc Marquez won another MotoGP Grand Prix, you get nothing. And so I'm trying to say, look how entertaining IndyCar is. I love IndyCar. IndyCar as a race is so much more entertaining to watch than a Formula One Grand Prix. I love NASCAR. People poo-poo NASCAR like mad. I love rallying. I love all forms of motorsport. So we literally, in our little podcast, go around the world, look at what were the best 5 events this weekend. Could be supercars down in Australia. But, people are so zoned in and obsessed with Formula One. It's almost why I do the podcast, to try and say, look, everybody, there's a lot of exciting motorsport to watch. Of course, then you've got to pay for it, which is the problem. Everybody says, well, I can't afford another subscription, which I understand that, But like the NASCAR, who does NASCAR? Is it Platinum, Premium? Premium, I think, do that. But it's about 20 quid a month. But with NASCAR, you get a race every Sunday night. So if you are a motorsport fan, they're only about 5 quid a race.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a pint of beer now, that's 6 quid. So it's funny how people protest about paying for things without stopping for a moment and thinking what value that actually is.
Yes, the perspective on it.
Oh, yeah. Not only do I get a NASCAR race for 5 quid, I also get a lot of other stuff, which I might not be interested in, but it is there. I pay a fortune to Sky, what is it, 130 quid a month or something ridiculous, And I don't watch many movies, and there's so much on there that I don't watch, which slightly annoys me. So I quite like the specific ones when you just go from. There's a lot of the motorsport now. They have their own channels. IMSA TV is really good. I can watch the IMSA races for free on their website. So I think quite good when motorsports give you free videos.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this tour? Where did we start? I don't know how we need to start so quickly.
Normally we sort of start at the beginning and end up at the end and go somewhere in the middle, but we've already gone somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. You asked me what I did, so I said I'm not a journalist. That's what kicked too many words.
So don't call me a journalist. And I think motorsport is a good place to start, because you're clearly big fan, racing driver. And how did it all start up? Did you want a race car in a magazine?
Won a magazine copy. Yeah, I know. I think why there hasn't been a video made, a film with someone, instead of the film F1 film, it should have been Tiff's life with a famous actor or several. Because to have no family money at all, and to win a racing car in a magazine competition, and 7 years later be sitting on the grid of a Grand Prix as a driver with no finance, having got there, having not ever brought a sponsor to anybody. It's quite incredible. And then to end up with a telly tart, so it could be an epic film.
Yeah.
But it is incredible. I still pinch myself. I sort of don't believe I've been a racing driver sometimes. Sometimes, gosh, I drove around Monaco in a Formula One car. And I go look at, I did that. I did all those Le Mans races. It's sort of it's a weird memory.
Yeah.
I don't believe my life has happened, I suppose, because it all happened as a 19-year-old winning this magazine competition, which was just a shock of all shocks, like winning the lottery or something to me. And then so just all happened. I don't know how it happened.
just kept going. And winning a race car, I've done a little bit of racing, sort of amateur racing, whatever. And I know getting the race car, definitely nowadays anyway, I presume same back then, that's part of it. But running a race car and traveling and doing all that is a whole nother, almost probably cost the same as the race car. How did you work that out?
Well, the beauty of it was, this is the problem, science has ruined motorsport. This is your number one problem. Aerodynamics, anything. So science has ruined the sport as a simple sport. Because when I won that car in 1971, it was a Formula Ford, which was the junior formula that everybody dreamed of doing. And, and we had a race almost every weekend. And they're always like one-day races. None of this sort of, 3 races. Because, I mean, you go to Formula 3 now, or you have like 8 weekends.
Yeah.
You get 27 races because there's 3 races, but if you have a shit first race, your whole way. Anyway. So I won this car. The beauty about Formula Fords was they were so simple. Suspension was quite simple. And I was a civil engineer, trainee civil engineer. I was at University of Sandwich Degree course and sponsored by Whitby. So I was busy being a civil engineer. And for 5 years, I was a civil engineer 5 days a week, a mechanic in my little lock-up garage 5 nights a week. And at the weekend, I was the van driver, the mechanic, and the racing driver. And ridiculously, I could bubble to the top and become a champion and become the most promising young driver in Britain, which I was voted in 1976, which got me a professional driver in the end. So I could be winning and just on my own.
Yeah.
But because if the suspension was a bit out, the camber was a half, you could drive through a bad car as a talented driver and get the results.
Yeah.
And so many of us drove around the countryside with transits and trailers, with our Formula Fords bouncing around on the back. And if you crashed one weekend, you'd go and have a beer with your mechanic on the way home. And if you won, you'd have a beer with your mechanic on the way home because the next weekend came and you're racing again. It was wonderful, wonderful motorsport, which you could do on your own income pretty much. If you crashed, you'd have to go and get a loan from the bank or something to get it going a bit further. So I was able to come from a rented flat, a family, with no money at all, to, the most promising young British driver in 1976. The awards, like the Autosport Awards, I won the Grovewood one, which was similar to the Autosport ones of today, which got me the publicity. I got offered a professional drive. So it was just a wonderful period. And nowadays, of course, these cars are so blooming sophisticated and science and technology.
Yeah.
You can't drive through a bad car. And so you have to have 5 mechanics because your suspension has to be millimetre perfect, preloads and cambers and everything has to be absolutely nailed. And of course, you have to have a psychologist because last year's championship has psychology. You have to have a physical trainer because the last year had a physical trainer. You have to have an eye test thing because of that. You have to have someone to design your crash helmet. You notice on Twitter, the most important thing of the children over the winter is presenting their new crash helmet colours. Which all look the same as the others from 20 yards away. They're just a mess of two. So having orange or Senna yellow or Graham Hill black with the rowing club. Or, no. So you do it. And so it costs so much money because you're employing 5 or 6 people in the truck and and all these physios. And so it just costs a fortune. I still don't believe in this karting obsession. I read a magazine, Motorsport magazine, that sells a new karting championship and people investing in kart series and saying you have to drive if you want to be a Grand Prix driver, you have to start karting at 8 years old. And that really annoys me because I always point out that all the superstars, you can sort of think, I'm just Button and Hamilton, take those 2 for starters. As soon as they started karting, they won everything.
Yeah.
The talent was immediately obvious. So if you start at 13 or 14 and you are that natural talent, you will go straight to the top. You will be in the top 5 or 6 very quickly.
Interesting.
Karting is great for sort of building neck muscles. It builds your body. It builds racecraft. But you don't need 8 years of it or 6 years of it in order to be. And I always love it when someone comes through that hasn't done karting and is successful. Emma Lloyd, one of the best young British female drivers doing academy, Formula Academy. She didn't do any karting. She did horse riding. Anyway. So this obsession with having to go karting annoys me because I don't think it's needed. But also it's the fact that getting in the right team when you're now on a grid full of identical cars, supposedly, whether it's Formula 2, Formula 3, GB3 or whatever, and then all of a sudden you'll look at the results and you'll find there's 2 Premers there and 2 other teams there and they're all in little pairs. And you all of a sudden a Formula 2 race, hold on a minute, the same teams on the front row. And you suddenly realize, well, it's just down to your engineers. Because now, instead of when I was in my Formula Ford, it was 95% driver, 5% car. It's now 95% car and 5% driver. So the brilliant driver, the really brilliant driver, is now only 0.2 quicker than a very, very good number 2. Look at Formula 1 Verstappen's and otherwise, you know. And so I'm suddenly looking at Formula 2, well, hold on a minute. Is it really showing me the best talent of driver, or is it the best talent of team? When they changed the Formula 2 cars and Prema, we had Ollie Behrman and Antonelli in the same team, Prema, which had won lots the years before. First 3 races of the new chassis, they were qualifying 15th and 16th. Now, if that had been the first year of their, coming up, their parents have found, they found £3 million for the sponsorship to buy a Prema seat. And you're 15th and 16th, and those two aren't good, So it's so hard to find genuine talent nowadays. That's one of the, and it's so hard for genuine talent to get in the right seat. I think it's a very frustrating sport for the young driver coming up the ladder.
And you look at the same. It's that question. I watch a bit of racing, a bit of Formula One, follow some of that stuff. And the question I have, and I think a lot of my friends have, is like, how do we know who's actually good?
Well, yeah.
Because it's really difficult to tell. They're all good. Like, they're all really fast. But like, where's the person out driving the car?
Well, you have to look through their whole history each time, which I do. But then you still get it wrong sometimes. I didn't think Bortoleto was that good. Looking at his, he sort of dominated Spanish Formula 4, which is a bit of a sideways, easier championship. Then he didn't do much, I think, in Formula 3 and Formula 2. But he's been, to me, the standout star of this year. This Brazilian boy. He's now so far ahead of Hulkenberg. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And do you think that everyone or lots of people using sims and logging? So rather than necessarily doing tons and tons of karting, you can still log a lot of practice and all the data and all the engineering and all of that sort of feedback. Do you think everyone is actually at such a high level now that you only get these tiny, 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 tiny differences?
Well, that's all part of it. I mean, the trouble is now they're judging drivers as future Grand Prix teams on simulators.
Yeah.
You could win a Formula 3 championship, but you still got to go to a Formula 1 team simulator. And I get motion sickness. I know Leclerc does, and some of the big, Verstappen doesn't do them. I think they're beginning to use them more. So I would have been rubbish if I'd been tested in a simulator, because so... that's all because you don't have any testing anymore. They're not allowed to test their cars. Whereas, you say they're not allowed to test cars, but the children, this is why the budget's so ridiculous. I did put, they'd have this Formula 4 Middle East Championship running alongside, I think, a Euro Formula Freca, Formula Regional, in January and February in the Middle East. And I think in the 2 championships, there were like 60 children down there, right? Doing like 8 races or something. So they have to have a parent or guardian because they're underage. And they're all living in the Middle East. And they're testing day after day of testing and testing and testing. And round Valencia, the most boring little go-kart track in the world. And it just costs a fortune. But the whole problem is if you don't do it, you won't be as good as them.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't be allowed these winter series. They should get back to school and play a bit more rugby and cricket and football. And play your simulator in your dormitory at night if you're at boarding school or at home, So it's just too much of everything. And all this fitness the fitness they go on about, it's just pathetic, to be honest, with these. I'm doing 15 laps in a Formula 4 car, and I've got to be when they have these competitions for drivers, they have to do, there was a physical test. They love that, drops plenty, see how fit you are. And, God, I used to have a pint of beer or 2 and a couple of cigarettes the night before, go out and win a Formula 4 race, You don't need that fitness. You do when you get up to Formula 3 and Formula 2, but the obsession with the whole, when you're like Formula 4, you have to live like a Grand Prix driver. You have to do all this physical and have the psychologist in there. And mind you, Lando probably needs a psychologist, to be honest, but and so does Lewis, but that's another thing. So it's awful. It's just a shame. It's got so scientific, so obsessed with data and physical and training. And I read Bianca Bustamante's sob story. recently. I think it was Autosport magazine, or was it on Crash.net? I don't know. They're very good, or Motorsport.net. So she's a very PR savvy and attractive young lady that was a McLaren signed up academy. You know, she's not doing the academy anymore, so she dropped to GB3, got up to really. So, and she's just how hard GB3, and I physically train and I'm ready. And the long, you talk about my vocabulary, you know, as a civil engineer, racing driver, and all the sort of special wording, everything that goes with society and being woke, it's all there. You know, every sentence, me and the team, we working forward. And she said we had, my best weekend was Hungary or something. And I checked, because I checked all these results of people, these quotes. So in Hungary, the reason for Hungary, I think it was Hungary, there were only 16 cars instead of the usual 23. She qualified. Guess where she qualified? Yeah, she qualified 16th and managed to finish 13th. So all her race results are 23rd, 22nd, 23rd. But in Hungary, or whichever track it was, she's 6th, 13th and 15th. So looks like her best weekend, but she's still back. And they just avoid the direct question. You know, and it's sad with the women. The W Series, the F1 Academy is brilliant. So it's trying to say to girls, you know, yes, you can be racing drivers as well, which I think sometimes they'll admit, you know, we're not going to make a Grand Prix driver in the next 5 years. Probably they own up to that. But what we're trying to do is to widen the database to try and find Maxine Verstappen or Lorna Hamilton. But the problem is when you go back to these 8-year-olds that go karting, I bet Enid Blyton's the problem, because if you ask all your 8-year-old girls and boys, right, at 8, what would you rather have? Do you want a go-kart or a pony? Now, this might be sexist. I might be overstating my position, but I would suggest that 80% of girls want a pony and 80% of boys want a go-kart. So you've always got that diversion early on. You've got a lot less girls, you know, wanting to go out in a kart. And of course, the girls are also in their interviews say, you know, well, the boys had so much more experience than us, you know, they've done more, you know. And so that's why they get all the best drives and they're moving up the ladder quicker than girls. But it's nothing to do with talent at that age. It's only to do with money.
Yeah.
So if you haven't got a parentage or parents who've got rich managing directors of companies to help their kid, the only reason all the boys are at the top of Formula 4 is that they've had a lot of money spent on them. Before anyone knew Lewis or Hamilton, knew who they were, you know, someone's got to spend a couple of £1 million.
Yeah.
So it's nothing to do with the sex. It's all to do with the parents. Now, if the parents don't want to spend $2 million on a daughter, but want to spend $2 million on a son, because that's how they think life should be, they don't want their daughter going motor racing, then that's what moves boys ahead of girls. It's nothing to do with anyone meant to hold girls back or all this other rubbish they claim at times. It's just life, you know, and life means that you don't get many parents spending £2 million on a young girl being a racing driver.
It is crazy money. I love seeing...
But hopefully now, with Formula One Academy, more girls will say, no, I don't want a pony actually, Dad, because I saw that Formula 4.
That looks quite cool.
I'll have a crack at... Yeah, so that's the best thing.
Yeah.
But I was trying to write a story about all this, so I phoned up the MSA, the MS UK now, the Motorsport company. So I said the best way to show if this is working or not, what the women's series have been doing, is to find out if more girls are getting kart licenses.
Yeah.
They wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't come out with... They've got some MS UK, again, female circuit that goes around Britain, where they give them 5 laps in a kart. Just that's it, you know, no racing, just a quick experience. And apparently they have to sign up to do that. So if we include the people who've all signed up for a day's 3 laps, there's probably millions of them. So, yeah, that's what I wanted. I can't find that out. I need a better journalist than me because I'm not a journalist. That again.
Yeah, so you're
to phone up MS
UK
and find out. I'm sure you must be able to force them by all these people that dig stuff. You know, how many more girls are doing serious karting, not one-off indoory and nothing, but a whole season of kart racing with a female kart license, and to see whether that's actually, you know, is going up or not.
Yeah, I think it's cool to see.
Where did we go there? I keep on diving.
We're diving off heavily. I'm going to take it to a different element of racing, and let's go back a bit. We started off with your first race car and that sort of stuff, but so you ended up racing F3. one point, and a little bit, tiny bit of F1.
Yeah,
right?
very brief, very brief. One Grand Prix. Although I tried to qualify at Monaco and I failed to qualify because, of course, in those days, 30 cars used to turn up for every race. And only the fastest 24 got on the grid.
That's
in fact,
quite
in Monaco
savage.
that year, it was only the fastest 20 got on the grid. So I had this very late call to replace poor Clever Rigazzoni, who was injured. I was in this one-car Unipart Ensign team, only a single car, so no driver to compare my lap times with. And it was a rubbish car. Regazzoni qualified 24th at Long Beach, or 23rd. So I was pretty chuffed, and I qualified 23rd for my Belgian Grand Prix debut in Zolder. So I thought I'd done all right. And I sat on the back row of the grid at Zolder and looked across, and Emerson Fittipaldi, me, because I was still living this dream. It still was, And I spent about 12 laps battling with Emerson Fittipaldi for the honour of being last in the 1980 Belgian Grand Prix when the engine broke. And I went to Monaco, and then, as I said, they only took the fastest 20 out of the 30. And in fact, in the first qualifying, which in those days used to be on the Thursday, and they had a qualifying Thursday and on the Saturday, it rained. And I qualified 19th out of the 30 cars. I think I was 3,000th. I looked at that once, 3,000th of second behind some bloke called Alain Prost or someone like that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I thought I was doing okay. Yeah. And I then walked around for Friday when we didn't have any running in Formula One in those days, hoping for thunderstorms and clouds to come. It dried out, and the car I'd done the lap time in was broken, so I clipped a curb, so I had to go to the spare car, and it was chaos. And I crashed in the swimming pool trying to qualify and failed. And it was a good non-qualifiers party because I had John Watson and Keke Rosberg didn't qualify for the 1980 Belgian Grand Monaco. In fact, for a pub quiz, the 1980 Monaco Grand Prix was the only time there hasn't been a British driver on a Grand Prix grid since about 1955. Wow. To the present. The only missing one Grand Prix there was no British driver was 1980 Monaco Grand Prix.
So what was it like driving an F1 car around Monaco then?
Magnificent. Just magnificent. And it was, I always remember, one thing I remember from Sandoval, you go up towards Casino Square, up this hill. And although it's flat out, it's not straight. And it's a bizarre feeling because I felt like I was in a rocket ship heading for the sky. But I could only see about 100 yards as the barriers curved. And it's got this wonderful crest where you almost have to brake. You'd like to brake after the crest, but you're not quite sure. And you have to brake. Nowadays, they go over the crest flat out and brake about 50 metres later, probably. And then the Casino Square's so tight. And it was just barriers everywhere. In fact, it helps me use when I try to explain the brilliant driver and the very good driver and the other drivers. Because the naturally talented, you can do the same time as a naturally talented brilliant if you work hard or, look at telemetry and stuff. But when I went around Monaco, the thing was my car was arriving in one corner, but my brain was still working out what happened to the one 200 yards behind me. Oh, God, I'm in another corner. Oh, God. And gradually, as I did more laps, the brain catches the body up.
Yeah.
So you almost get to being in sync. I mean, maybe I was sort of... So someone like Nigel Mansell, to compare with others, he was like on top of his body. So when things happened, he was a brilliant, wrestled the car. He would react to whatever's happened. Whereas I always say to the Sennas and Schumachers and nowadays, their brain is 10 yards in front of their body. And I don't think I ever got to that situation in my racing career. So it's always, I always try to say that's the thing. You've got to be so ahead of your body to be the really. I mean, they talk on the radio now, don't they? Like, I wasn't quite fit enough. I know I should be fit, but not. No. Talk about talking on the radio. I was trying to breathe was a bit too much for me. I was
just surviving.
It was magical, but unfortunately, I knew that. They were after Jan Lammers. I knew that because they kept having meetings while I was walking around Belgium and Monaco. I'd see the team talking to Jan Lammers. So I knew I was out as soon as Jan was committed to another team for another 2 races, so he couldn't be released. But he'd qualified 4th, talk about having the right car the right day. But Long Beach, the race where Regazzoni crashed when he was 23rd in my little horrible Ensign, Jan qualified 4th in this ATS. So he was like the talk of the paddock, and Ensign had an American sponsor by then. So his American sponsor was, gee, we need that kid. Not that Tiff Needell bloke. So I knew it was coming. The Lammers would take over. And he then failed to qualify for 6 Grand Prix on the trot when he got the car. So kind of like, it's one of those things that makes you feel, well, yeah, see, I was
good. I was okay.
If I'd been in the ATS at Long Beach, I would have qualified 4th. See?
Yeah.
But of course, it never takes you back. Once you're kicked out the other side, like several Red Bull drivers have discovered, you don't go back up again too quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a magical driving a Formula One car. It's just awesome. Except now they've got power steering and paddles and all that easy peasy stuff.
Have you driven a more modern Formula One car?
Well, I drove a Williams for a 5th gear item in 2005 when it was the BMW Williams V10. I mean, just so quick. It was around Rockingham. And it was amazing for Williams to trust me with a car to start with. It was BMW sponsoring. It was the new M5 out, the V10 M5. Vicky Butler-Henderson was driving the M5. And we set off side by side. And I had to do sort of 4 laps before she could finish 3.
Okay, yeah.
Typical things, But they stuck me in this thing, I'd have all the fitting and no testing at all, but. And of course, it was left foot braking. Wasn't room.
Yeah.
I didn't tell them I'd never done left foot braking. So I go out of this thing, and it was just so awesome. I'm 3 laps in, I was knackered, because I was about 50 years old by now. I mean, wasn't a spring chicken anymore, probably a bit more than 50 years old. The neck was gone in about 2 corners. And the funniest thing was, I always remember all the Formula 2 drivers that had their first Formula 1 test in that era, because carbon brakes, all that stuff. And when they were interviewed afterwards, what was amazing about it? They was like, the brakes. The brakes was so good. And I wasn't really stopping very quickly. And I thought, well, what's all this fuss about these brakes? They don't seem that good to me. And off went down the brake route. And all of a sudden, I sort of outbraked myself slightly because I was getting a bit blurred vision because it was all going so quick for me at this stage. So I sort of panicked a bit, and then I accidentally leant a bit hard with my left foot, which had only ever done clutch changing before. And so I realised, okay, you've got to press the pedal a bit harder, Tiff. But my left foot wasn't really used to pressing pedals that hard. But it was amazing, actually. I had called, my son was at home, and he phoned me. I was out filming someone, and he said, Frank Williams phoned up to talk to you. This was on the Monday after, or the day after we'd filmed it, or the day after it was on the telly, I think, probably. Oh, yeah. Well, I've got the drive, have I? Someone's taking a piss here, someone's taking a mickey. And I was driving home later that day, and the old phone went in the car. This is Frank Williams. So he said, I just wanted to say to you that was the most amazing piece of television to show the speed of a Formula One car as opposed to a road car. And it was, Frank is such a lovely man, Frank Williams. Really. That was another thing in my racing craft. This Ensign thing died. I was touting my way around the Formula One teams. And I said to Williams, actually, I came up with the idea that why did you have a reserve driver that does the testing? Because I'm sure your 2 drivers are very busy. It'd be a good idea, wouldn't it, to have a young driver do some running for you? And then you thought about it for a minute. They said, no, and they want to do all the driving, Tiff. They don't want anyone else doing any driving. And so I didn't get it. It was a year later that Jonathan Palmer got the first Williams test driving job. So literally, I was a year before my time. I suggested,
and maybe that sat in the back of his mind, and he went, maybe that was not a bad idea. Who was that driver that suggested that? I don't know.
Yeah. No. Jonathan Palmer's just won the Formula 3 championship. Let's try him.
So then you did a bunch of GT racing.
Yeah, we all sort of went, because we went to Le Mans first before GT. So once I climbed Mount Everest and got to the peak, I always loved thinking there's only 20 Formula 1 drivers in the world.
Yeah.
In the world. When you think every English Premiership football team, was it 30 in a squad? I think it's 30.
Yeah.
And there's 20 teams. So that's 600 Premiership football in England alone.
Yeah.
Only 20 Grand Prix drivers. Peak. So it's an incredibly amazing thing. That's why I say about, from winning a car to being on the top of Everest, the chances of it happening must have been so many odds to nil. So, of course, once you fall off the other side, you can't sliding down. But luckily for me, the Group C championship had just begun, the new regulations that transform sports cars. So I entered this fantastic decade, one of the best decades of Le Mans and World Sports Car Championship, and started getting paid to drive, which I hadn't been paid up until now. So I wasn't. My mum and dad and my girlfriend and a friend drove to Zolder in the family's Datsun 120Y estate.
Nice.
And stood on the fences, You imagine now a modern farmer when they're all coming in their Learjets.
Well, they've already paid like 40 million to get their kid there.
And they're in the garages, aren't they? Why would I want to stand in the back of I always watch those people in the back of garages watching the Grand Prix on the monitor with the head coats, all the celebs, don't they? I'd rather be in the motorhome with a nice glass of Pinot Grigio watching
or in a suite or something.
Yeah, why stand in the back? Anyway, we digress. Where have we gone now? Yes, so Group C was wonderful. So that's why I started going around the world racing Group C sports cars.
And what was racing so you drove the Porsche?
Yeah, Porsches, Aston Martin, Nimrod, Toyota factory driver in the 70s. Raced a lot in Japan initially, doing the Japanese championship, where I also raced Formula 2 cars, and touring cars, and just started wandering. I was a half helmet wheel travel, freelance.
And what was racing a Group C car like? Coming out of a little bit of Formula 1 and then getting into a Group C car. What was a 962 like to drive?
Heavy,
as a race car?
Hard, tough. They're amazing machines, those Group C cars, but they were heavy to drive. We had a down effect. When I got into a Porsche, especially, had a lot more ground effect than some I started with earlier on. So a lot of downforce, but as those standards. But you had a teammate or two teammates, wonderful camaraderie. But they were just really hot stints, I had to start getting fitter and fitter then because, I was doing 2 hours in a car and 2 hours off and then you're back in again. I shared with Derek Bell and stuff, who was on his way down a bit in sports cars. We had a wonderful time with him. So, we just raced in so many great tracks, but it was flipping hard. Well, I loved the testing and the qualifying and stuff, but sometimes the races were grueling affairs. If your car wasn't working particularly, your tyres are knackered and you've got to get them to the end of the stint, so you're sliding around with no grip at all, losing time. So it was just very pressured, but very enjoyable being a professional driver. It's just fantastic.
And at that point in time, were you running like quite a different qualifying trim? Like in terms of boost and things?
Well, that's what annoys me now. Well, yes, boost went up, the wings came down, so that's why I love the qualifying laps more than the race quite often. And you're allowed to adjust things. That's what drives me out. I've got a lot of hobby horses to stand on. Soapboxes. Because nowadays you can't change the car. So you get, even in Formula 1, say, so Verstappen taken the British Grand Prix this year. They went low downforce for qualifying, which got him on poles. I think he was on pole British Grand Prix. I think he did. But then they didn't think it was going to rain, the forecast for the Sunday showers. So they low downforce. Then, of course, they woke up, it was raining. And you can't change your wing settings. So it puts two cars out of the race or out of their normal position for the spectators watching. So you've immediately eliminated two cars from being competitive. Now, I know you can't do too much in this Parc Fermé, but I would have thought you could allow Aero changes. And it's the same at Le Mans with sports cars. You have a homologated shape and you can't change it. You can't then put a different nose on or stick an extra wing tabs on, or we used to stick little wing earlets on the front of the noses to get a bit more downforce. And that's another shame. We're so locked into technology, locked into you can't change your car, you've got what you've got. So that was, which we could do, throughout the 80s in Group C.
Yeah, because in F1 now, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I think that sounds like a great idea. When we're at, if you talk about Le Mans, now we've just sort of finished GTE and Top Class, and now we've got GT3. There's so many people that race GT3. And it's like the most popular, it's got to be probably the most popular racing series.
Yeah, around the world, yeah.
And those cars are like locked in. Can you tweak aero and stuff a little? Like you can't do a whole new nose and things like that.
No, I don't think you can probably put a wing up.
Wing up and down and stuff like that.
Have been homologated, yeah. But no, there's so little to do. Watch IndyCar, they come in and the mechanic turns a little screw by your front wings, which I think they can do in the race. Because who was moaning? I think Leclerc said they'd change his wing settings. I think you can change them in Formula 1, but you've only got 2.5 seconds to make a change.
Yeah. And they come in so fast, though. You do actually see them. They come in with like a little Allen key. It's like, done.
Yeah, turn a knob, just a knob.
And they're changing the diff on the wheel and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, gosh, yeah. God, I'd be lost with all that.
So, racing at Le Mans, you did a bunch of Group C, which I know loads of people look back at that era as like pretty damn cool. And then you raced a bit in GT1. Did you race a bit in GT1?
Well, yeah, because Group C died, so that fell away. And then I started racing GTs, the Lister Storm, with a wonderful V12 Jaguar engine. That was I did a couple of them all in that. We did the Daytona 24-hour race, and that was on the Newcastle football colours. That was great fun. And then we had that started, in fact, with the, what was it called? The GP. So it started with very standard road cars.
Yeah. So
we had the Lister Storm, the Ferrari F40s, it would have been, Porsche GTs, McLarens obviously come in, Mercedes.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I think there was all sorts of odd GTs joined in. What Lamborghini would have fitted the bill? No, I don't think they did. No. Anyway, not quite that low spec. But then, of course, it was Porsche, because the Porsche 911, this is again, drives me mad, wasn't quite competitive enough. It just wasn't quite sure. And they came, I don't really remember it, Brands Hatch in 96. They came out with the first of their 911 GT1s with a long nose, ugly looking duckling.
935? Was that?
No, that was a proper pucker roll. That's a real pucker thing. I forget what they called it. It was GT1. GT1 anyway. They just blew everyone away. So completely obsoleted all the current. We were all quite close. It was doing quite well. So then McLaren came out with a long tail. Remember, it was an ugly, ruined the beautiful F1 looks by putting a horrible long tail and long nose in order to compete against the Porsche. And then Mercedes arrived. They homologated that $1 million road car, CLR. What was it?
CLK GTR.
Yeah, so that they then dominated. So then it blew away the whole sort of simple get your GT car and go and race it. So then it all becomes more homologated, and then so I think the 90s it all fell apart a bit. It all went a bit crazy because you had to homologate cars.
It was that sort of transition of, okay, the race cars were race cars, but you kind of had road cars that were very similar to those race cars, like F1 and stuff.
The Porsche one, it just had the monocoque in the middle, I think.
Yeah.
That was about it.
Yeah. And then that was
the shell, the bits at the front of the back. But then this GT3 then came in the early 2000s. What's the name? Rattel. This is the Rattel bloke. And it's just transferred. It's just absolutely been such a success. And I absolutely love it. I was involved in the first series where teams had to have only one make. It was quite good. Each model had 6 cars in the race. That forced people to go. I was in an Aston Martin that year, and every other manufacturer had 6 cars. It was fantastic, Rattel. And then he's gradually developed the GT3 so the manufacturers can come in and have a go. And of course, he brought in balance of power, which is a very dangerous thing. And it'll only work if you're very clever, but he's made it work. And there's always one team that's upset, and then you get a bit of a tweak, and you don't get a tweak. Whereas balance of power in world sports cars, he's showing how you can completely, do I swear on this channel or not? Fuck it up. I mean, the last race when the 2 Cadillacs won in Brazil, they lapped everybody. Lapped the field. And they're so computerized. I think the whole thing is written now to computer program. As we all know with everything that's slightly world in this world, how you feed your computer model might well affect what results you get. And they've got a computer program, so they feed in all the results, every lap time of every Cadillac, every Porsche, every Toyota, every Ferrari. I don't know when it comes out with they add 3 kilometers, 3 kilograms here. And well, somehow the computer obviously got it wrong with Interlagos. And again, if you go that wrong and you get too desperate to stop Ferrari dominating, and then all the Ferrari fans in Brazil, you got your Ferrari shirt on, your Toyota shirt, and you turned up to watch the sports cars, the fantastic Ferrari, they win Le Mans. And you get to the grid and you where are Ferraris then? Oh, the 2 slowest cars in the 16-car field. And they were Toyotas behind them. What Toyota dominated 3 years ago. Yeah. And it's just stupid. You've got to stop the computer doing that. I don't know how you do it. I mean, it's so hard. But the point is, hard. And the trouble is with the computer, I think you almost need a different balance of power for every circuit. Because some circuits with more high-speed corners would suit some chassis more, and the balance of power changes. But if you change the balance of power from fast corner and put it on a slow corner, the balance of power maybe won't work.
And then you kind of want to do it for the whole series, right, though, don't you? But then in reality, with that racing, everyone kind of only cares about Le Mans.
Well, yes, which has a different balance of power. The Le Mans do their own balance of power.
Yeah.
So they don't actually.
They have a bias
when the
switch
computer
towards certain companies.
But I mean, after qualifying in Brazil, I would have gone out and given Ferrari and Toyota more power, overnight.
Yes.
We want to race tomorrow. We don't want, a demonstration of. So yeah, balance of power. But GT boys, I think, have got it. When you see a sort of BMW M2 and a McLaren going side by side down the straight at the same speed, you think this doesn't look right, Yeah, it works.
It's cool though. It's cool to watch.
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's really good racing,
and it does translate. You see the road cars and you see the race cars, and you're like, they're kind of same, ish. So and then you did all this racing, and then you started going on TV.
Well, yeah, somehow I don't know how that. 1987, Chris Goffey broke his ankle when he was supposed to drive a Formula First racing car, and by then, because I was dodgy, I have helmet wheel travel. I was doing any job I could.
Yeah.
I was track tester, writing stories for Autosport magazine, doing my track tests. And then I started being an expert analyst on the BBC with the lovely Murray Walker. So it was the year when James Hunt was to the Formula One. And he couldn't be asked to British Formula 3 and the Formula Ford Festival. So I'd worked with Murray for about 3 years before that. So when Goffey couldn't drive his single-seater, they knew my voice and knew my phone number and got me in the seat. Just that one thing. And fun enough, it's a bit like what I say now when I moan about Formula One. This is still relevant. So this was 1987. And I say, the trouble is on television, it looks too easy. They just turn the corner and out the corner. And even now, you've got Lewis Hamilton with their power steering of their Formula One cars, chasing, for the lead, doing breaking the lap record around Bahrain every lap going faster. And he's just turning the corner and open the wheel and flat my pedal up, and turning the corner and change down. And that's going as fast as he can. And I look at IndyCar now. And boy, you watch IndyCar St. Petersburg street race with concrete wall, and they're the opposite lock, and you can hear the wheels spinning behind as they lose traction. And that's what I love about IndyCar. You see the driver driving. So when I had this one-off test for Top Gear, I thought, right, okay, I'll make it look a bit hard.
Yeah.
I won't go the quick way. So I deliberately sent it sideways, had the opposite lock on, and because I had reserves of, I knew I wasn't about to crash.
Yeah.
I talked all the way through, we're hamming it up as I have done ever since. Dear, embarrassing at times. And so the producers go, blimey, now he's about to die and crash, and he can still talk at the same time. We'll have him back to do more. So I started doing more and more track tests, and then they were actually looking to revamp Top Gear at that time because the format had got a bit staid and a bit, the suitcases in the back and the very old-fashioned William Woolard with his famous foot up on the front wheel, the Woolardings, his pose. So about a year after I started doing more, someone met this tall, lanky idiot called Clarkson, who seemed to have a different view on how to film cars. So he came in, which took off, and then he got his mate Quentin Wilson to come and talk a lot of bollocks about second-hand cars. And so that's when Top Gear just took off in the 90s, and then we launched Top Gear magazine. And sadly, Jeremy left us to go and try and be a chat show host, which didn't really work at all. And so eventually, when the ratings dropped, we had a new controller of BBC Two came in, Jane Rift, who decided she didn't like cars much on her channel. Fair enough, if she wants more ballet and more gardening, I don't care. So we were taken off air, That's when I then went to Channel 5 and took the Top Gear team, and then we created Fifth Gear. So it's been a wonderful ride. I've enjoyed, so much of it. It's got me around the world driving every sort of road car, more and more runways and burning rubber and sliding around. So I have actually loved doing it. But again, when it comes to the pressure of script writing, or, I'm terrified to say, this interior is nice. Jeremy, this interior would snap the nickel elastic off your girlfriend's city, I just don't have that range of vocabulary coming out of my head, So I've said lots of things are nice. Styling, I've got no idea about styling. Styling is the eye of the beholder, and I won't pick out an air vent and contoured, and which journalists do now.
When did you start doing some drifting and building that sort of capability? Because watching you drive and test cars on TV, you're doing the Tiff thing of like, what? This car kind of feels like it's all over the place, and which is fun to watch. Like, it is definitely fun to watch, but you're clearly in control to some degree. So where do you build that ability? Because like
Well,
racing
just
cars,
straight
you're
away,
not-
I think, because when I started filming airfields, that gave me more and more time to,
Yeah.
like Top Gear, they've got an airfield, so there's no jeopardy. You can slide it around. You're not going to hit anything, you make a mistake. I remember I just handbrake turned into a car park slot with one car and then sort of got out and went and chatted, to the thing. And I think the top, there was a major management meeting as to whether or not I should be doing this sort of thing, sliding a car into a car park. And then, I just started drifting just to make cars look exciting on telly. And it certainly took off for me and for the programme, and people loved it. And I'm now embarrassed now because every Tom, Dick and Harry drifts into them, everything. And it's all, everyone says smokes tyres. Chris Harris, he is epic. The drifting Chris Harris does. I probably couldn't keep up with him now because he's so, he takes the most wildest hypercar out, slides them around. He really is very, very good at doing. But I think I actually started. I think I was the first person to, smoke tyres on TV.
I remember there's two sort of video clips that spring to mind. I'll do the first one first. It was you sort of versus Clarkson on a McLaren F1. And you're like, it's a bit sketchy, but it's fine because I'm a racing driver.
Oh, the spoof. Oh, the Newsnight spoof.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah. When Clark and Paxman, when Jeremy was a Paxman, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was in the studio. I have expert Mr. Needell here. It's twitchy, isn't it, Tiff? Oh, no, Jeremy, in the right hands. I love that. Yeah, it was a Newsnight spoof with Jeremy Clarkson, Paxman.
And driving a McLaren F1, I think they're sort of known to be a bit interesting. What's your experience of that with the level of skills that you had? Is it just actually it's just fine, or tell me about it?
If you press the pedal too hard, you're going to have a crash. Probably Rowan Atkinson proved a couple of times, but it's the best supercar, hypercar. Stupid words. I think there's not something bigger than a hypercar now, isn't there? Anyway, I can't be bothered with that. But there's nothing better because it has 640 horsepower. I think it was this glorious V12 naturally aspirated BMW behind you, and just everything was mechanical. No power steering, little gear lever, clack clack clack, sat in the middle. But also with Gordon Murray, it was packaged. You could take it to the south of France, had suitcases and toolkits and practicalities. But it was just glorious to drive. It was quite soft. I mean, look at the famous, probably my most famous film that everybody still says, "God, I remember you when you drove that McLaren," But it was, again, it's my highlight reel, as it were. But others refer to Puma when I handbrake turn with Quentin and screaming in the back of the seat as the highlight reel. But anyway, the McLaren for me. And I'd built it. And also nowadays, if you start a film, the producers, they all want the opening scene to be screeching tyre smoke.
Yeah.
Or show it, because I often would build up the story as I'd like to, and then you go to the climax. And so they almost give away what you're doing by having to have the opening pictures. And it annoyed me. So the McLaren store, we went to the factory to see how it was made. I went shopping in it in a car park to show it was shopping. And then about 6 minutes in, I turned to camera and people think I was genuinely scared, but I hammed it up again as always, And I just said, but what you'll really want me to do is this, wow. And then on the track, it's rolled and pitched and slid. But it was, the point is, if you go too stiff for an amateur driver especially, you don't feel the limit coming. It's a much, sudden, flipping on, it's gone. And the whole point about having some body roll is it warns your body that you're getting near the limit sort of thing. And to make a car handle, you have to play, or to make it over or under, so you have to transfer weight. So when you're racing, you want to move the weight around as slowly as possible, transferring front to rear diagonally. You want to slowly, you don't want to suddenly change anything. But when I'm creating film muckabouts, that's what I do want it. So I put it on its nose under braking and then turn the steering real harsh because I know there's no weight on the back wheels. So, that's why the McLaren was such joy to drive, because I could play with it, whereas I think now you go to a 1,500 horsepower hypercar and it would be quite hard to get to that limit. Because if you get sort of 5 degrees slideways, then you're spun and gone, because you haven't got that body roll to change and play with the car so much. So the McLaren was just fabulous. And you don't need more than 640 horsepower. I go obsessively mad with these 1,500 horsepower Bugattis. Oh, what the point? Because they're smothered in so much computers now from ESC and traction control. So you never have 1,500 horsepower. You press the throttle, the computer says, whoa, if you go through a bit of a corner here, you can have 400 horsepower now. That's your lot, you know. And so it's just to see. I actually read a column, one of my better columns for Top Gear magazine, suggesting before someone with a 1,500 horsepower something runs down a load of people at a bus stop in London, and we say, how have we allowed a 19-year-old to have a 1,500 horsepower car? Because we self-regulated. So I'd say, okay, maximum power for a supercar is 650 horsepower. Because that was plenty from McLaren F1. You know, your four-wheel drive rally car, 400 horsepower, and front-wheel drive 300 horsepower. We'd give maximums. Because now every new Porsche 911 for decades had to have another 30 horsepower. So it's just because it had to have more than the old model. Whereas if the limit was, say, 400 horsepower for that, or 500 horsepower for that, whatever you pick, well, the next 911 would have the same regulation, 500 horsepower, but now gives another 5 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
So we keep our powerful cars, which society might not want us to have, and we look green at the same time because we're reducing the emissions and stuff.
And they might have to get a bit lighter, or go down that way.
But I watch these things go around Goodwood Festival. You know, the Bolide, is it?
Yeah.
People love the kids and YouTubers. Wow, wet themselves over getting anywhere near. And all these one-off manufacturers you've never heard of with a 1,500 horsepower thing. And almost everyone I saw I only saw the TV feed, was just crawling up because the poor old driver was terrified of opening the throttle and having see what 1,500 horsepower would do. Then a plain old GT3 Porsche came through. Wow! The driver obviously using, and it was way more entertaining than all these ridiculous £3 million cars that are going to end up in some Middle East showroom for the rest of their lives, crawling up the hill.
Yeah, it's so true. Seeing the Porsche Cup car, normally driven by is it Harry something? I can't remember what his last name is. One of the Cup car drivers, and just like fully on the limit, really on the edge. Just looks amazing.
Or that Can-Am car last year is one of the stars. Can-Am, that's what I want. And I don't want to see them donutting in front of the house. I want to see full acceleration.
Yeah.
Past the straight to hear what it sounds like, on song and stuff.
The McMurtry, I think that is one of the most mental things I've ever just seen.
Yeah, I know, but I can't get too excited. It's a silly thing, really, and to be honest. I mean, it's fantastic, but it's silly.
It's silly.
Well, it's like records that really annoy me. Another hobby horses. There's so many hobby horses in my backyard. So when Audi came out, they took the Pikes Peak, didn't they? They went round Spa quicker than a Formula One car. And if you've got an unlimited budget and no regulations, of course you can beat every record in the record book because, we've got regulations holding things slightly under control. So the Pikes Peak thing, the on-board, it was just point and squirt. He just went round the corner and then went around another corner. So a brave man to do it. But so it didn't excite me much, whereas you had Dan Gurney in some Eagle Formula One car with wings on it going up the hill when it was dirty and dusty. I mean, it was just so exciting to watch. So the McMurtry, again, well, yes, it's just incredible, but you're just hanging on inside it. So none of us are going to drive it, really, and it throws a load of dust out the back. It's fantastic. But
the Porsche 919, when they did that Spa, and they did the Nürburgring lap, do you remember that?
Yes.
I think they called it
Porsche
the Tribute.
That did Spa. I was thinking Audi. No, that was Porsche that did it. You're right.
In their Le Mans car, their LMP1.
Yeah. It's faster than the Formula One car. If you turn up the power and put an extra...
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Nürburgring, don't get me going on Nürburgring lap times. What is the point of those? So, what's the driver? Who was driving it? What was the temperature? What tyres did you have?
You mentioned Chris Harris earlier, and there was a video I wanted to talk about, which was sort of the LAF versus P1 versus 918 video, which you appeared in at the end,
yes.
Doing your usual Tiffness in a LAF, I believe. How was that? Like, did you get to drive all three cars?
Well, yeah, not for long. It was pretty stressful because it was one day's filming, So it's always you want to get all these shots done, and I had to go out and learn the track and learn the Ferrari. And I did. I tried them all. Yes, I mean the Ferrari's my choice in the end, and that's where Harris bottled out. Does anyone remember? Nobody remembers the ending when Harris decides we had to say which one we preferred.
Yeah,
right. So they were running, the McLaren was the fastest, but then it was on its stupid ground effect, which they wouldn't allow it to be on road spec. That really annoyed me. So I said the Ferrari. And then he turned to Marino and said, which one? And he just said all of them, because father-in-law owns all of them, so he probably couldn't upset one of them or the other. So Marino said all of them. And then Chris, when it came to Chris to make his choice, he just said, the last one I drove.
Yeah.
He really piked out. But the Ferrari was the best one because it was more naturally aspirated and less electricity. So it was more, and it just handled better, and had a much better steering. Porsche, they seemed to love the Porsche. I didn't like the interior and I didn't like the driving position. It was four-wheel drive and I didn't really like it at all in any way, manner or form. And of course, the McLaren, they wouldn't let it run on the same road ride height. It had to be contractually obliged. So yeah, I mean, the turbo noise was fantastic and the grip was fantastic. But I just felt, again, it's a racing car. Too many of the people are putting a racing car and then sort of crawling up the hill and trying to sell them for £3 million, but they're not. And again, going back to the McLaren F1, it's a road car with luggage. But the funniest thing about that epic, the trilogy, was they all had the teams out of McLaren and Porsche and Ferrari. And because of this stupid hybrid stuff, every time we'd done three laps, it didn't regen enough. Like a Formula One car has to regen enough for each lap. But of course, these didn't. So after 3 laps, your electricity was gone. So all you had left was your
whatever you got,
bit. So when we were filming the next car, you'd see the mechanics of the first car driving round and round the paddock behind the pits, recharging the stupid things. Oh, it's why McLaren apparently never initially did the great Nürburgring lap record, because it would run out of electric power halfway around a lap. So
it's an interesting one, that. And then there was rumours when the LAF came out that the hybrid basically wasn't even plugged in.
Well, it didn't have much. That's the point. It didn't have much at all. In fact, I turned up on the grid for a start. I said, I haven't got any electric. I had to do one quick lap again before we filmed the start of the race and the start. But, it was pretty epic weekend film. Chris is so good at organising it. Chris makes things happen, as he's so good on his own to sort things, rushing around like the producer, director, financier, and he was a chef at night, but a great pastor as well in the house we were living. So yeah, Chris just goes at 100 miles an hour non-stop, whether it's on track or off track.
Yeah, that clip of the 3 of you driving at the end of that video is one of my favourite, because you're clearly having so much fun as well. Like with your mates.
The worst thing is we were going to do more really fun shots, but one of them broke down slightly. And so we actually lost. We had these amazing drone shots we were going to do, but we were more disappointed at the end of the day because we hadn't done these real climax shots that we were after. But we got the sunset still was still pretty epic.
Yeah, and that road car, like P1 in race mode, whatever, it's that thing of like. We see it a lot with hypercars now. Things like I don't know what the Valkyrie's like. I'm sure it's pretty mad, but it's sort of tending in that direction of like it's a race car for the road. Like,
yeah,
it's not a race car.
It's neither. It's a bits are in between, isn't it? It's like all those Ferrari, those FXXs where the owners can only drive their cars when Ferrari have a day with their cars.
Pretty cool though.
Well, yeah, cool. If you've got a couple of million to spare.
You're spending a lot of money and whatever, but you look at those and you go, okay, it's got a pretty sick engine in those things. I'm sure they're pretty fun, like on track. Yeah,
but the drivers can't get anywhere near their capabilities. That's the other, thing.
But they are having fun.
Are they?
Are they having fun? I don't know, actually.
Or are they terrified? Are they terrified
of a big, massive bill?
Yeah.
Did that
terrified of what speed they're doing.
Does that ever come into your mind, driving cars?
No, because luckily, I race at Goodwood in £1 million cars, but the owners are all in on it. The whole thing is that crashing a car, it's the same a new car, an old car, you're still replacing bodywork and stuff. It's only if they catch fire, these old historic cars, and burn to the cinders, and that will be completely tragic. But, if they're dented, they can be undented. So it's, you've got to take that into your mind.
How does the racing, because you've raced at Goodwood quite a lot.
Every one.
Every single one.
Revival,
nice.
Every single revival. In fact, another epic Top Gear, you can get to see the first epic revival. It's on YouTube. I did a Top Gear video for the very first Goodwood, which is still epic, beautifully filmed, really nicely done.
And do you have a top racing at Goodwood experience?
Leading in the Lister Knobbly into
Nice.
Badgwick Corner on the first lap. One of the best photos in most Goodwood book. Me and that yellow Écurie Belge Lister Knobbly leading with a Ferrari chasing me. Epic, lovely shot.
All right, cool.
Just I haven't driven a Formula One car, which annoys me. I've only ever driven sports and GT cars.
Lots of fun stuff. And then recently, you've been involved with Love Cars for a while now.
Yeah.
You've had 2 series. It started off as YouTube.
Yeah, on Prime. Yeah, we've done YouTube. Yeah, we're the ones that Love Cars on the Road. It's on Amazon Prime. But we're trying to get the budget to make another out. We've got lots of film footage, but Paul works so hard. Paul Woodman who runs it, but finding the budgets nowadays, I mean, the YouTube boys sort of self-finance and they do their own editing and video filming themselves. And if you're very clever like Supercar Blonde, you get in early, just point at things and earn millions of pounds. But trying to make a magazine program with no budget, and unless you get massive hits every week, it's so hard to. Yeah. Well, as you know, you're in the business, trying to generate without sponsorship. So he's looking for sponsors now, so we can maybe make a lot more.
Because you've driven you've driven some pretty cool stuff. I saw a video of you driving a Porsche GT1 somewhere, a blue one.
Yeah. Yes, that guy up in Scotland.
Yes, his
road going, yeah, that was wonderful. We get on. When we get people lending us cars like that, they're pretty epic. We drove them. I did a great Ford GT. I really enjoyed doing up at Pembroke. The trouble is with tracks now for YouTubers for our level.
Yeah,
we used to be able to get a track for £500 for the day, and it's now £3,000 for the day.
That's kind of it.
So you see a lot of people filming at Llandau, which is a lovely little friendly circuit, but it's one of the only tracks that's not in thousands of pounds a day, which you just can't afford. So you see so many people driving road cars or driving, like the new M5 BMW on a road car, and this handle's great. It's really handling. I mean, it's not handling till it's doing about 70 miles an hour anyway. And funny enough, I managed to film with Vicky Butler Henderson's got a little series for driver review.
Yeah.
Again, YouTube, which I did the M5 for. And we managed to get out on that everyman circuit in the Midlands somewhere. So I thought, finally we can have a bit of a play. So luckily, I did this wonderful. I had a really good drone operator, a wonderful smoky end, one way, that the other way, and stayed on the power shot, which is on the video on driver reviews. And the next lap I'm round, the bloody everyman people, you can't make that noise, you can't skid, you can't smoke. Oh, no.
That's why we paid you some money.
Oh, at Pembray now, they won't let you cameramen be on the track.
What?
So they've got to be over the barriers. Circuits make you have crash helmets, which I insist on saying, I'm just testing a road car in the manner it was supposed to be tested. They're all saying they've got to have helmets, Tiff, and I have to sign disclaimers to say, So it's getting a bit desperate for doing that sort of film in any case. It's almost you have to go off to France or, go and find a track overseas, which is probably cheaper and less regulated.
Do you think that's the move now for making those sorts of films? Because it just seems to be getting harder and harder to do interesting things.
Yeah. You can go on airfields, I suppose, but the trouble is some of those airfields are a bit rough and ready unless you go to Dunsfold, in good condition. But other airfields you see people filming on, but there's only one bit of the track you can use, and the rest has got broken down rubbly potholes, which
or
wouldn't be so good.
Super abrasive surfaces and things like that. Yeah.
So it's becoming harder and harder to film fun things, really.
And you want. We all remember and have seen loads of clips of people drifting on roads, and it's like closed claws, professional driver and stuff.
They will say that, they're not lying.
Wait, but they're all on a launch in Italy on the same bit of road. But it does look. You need the proximity.
Yeah,
for things to look
a bit
good.
Of a field. Yeah, there you go. Harder and harder.
What excites you outside of racing?
My golf handicap.
Oh, yeah.
Golf. I love golf. Golf is I'm playing this afternoon. I only play about twice a month. And I haven't got any better in 40 years, I don't think. I'm the same handicap. So around 18 handicap. It's the most frustrating sport because I can be like Tiger Woods once a year. So one of my clubs, I'll hit shots where, God, did I hit that? Was that Tiger Woods that hit that? So I can hit every shot brilliantly, but unless you do twice a week or something, you just never do them every time you hit the flipping thing.
It's like jumping into an F1 car once a month for one lap with no testing.
You wouldn't go very quick. You'd be on the same lap time 20 years later. Yeah, exactly the same thing. So I love golf, or I love gardening, and so I've got a mower and a flail mower, and I smash the territory, get a chainsaw out and burn and bonfire. So I like relaxing at home, but the kids have all left now, so it's getting not quite so exciting. And football, of course, I've forgotten. Football, where's my mug? I've got a mug here. The mug's over there. The Mighty Saints, Southampton season ticket holder. So I really, and funny enough, I often tweet, that when I come over a really exciting game, that I've had more despair, joy, passion, hatred in 90 minutes, than a Formula One.
It's true,
give me a whole season of racing. You come home after a football match, and if it's been good and exciting, and you've won, preferably, it's full of emotion and excitement, and in front of your face excitement.
Yeah.
So I love, so obviously Southampton's a bit of a bouncy up and down. We're down the championship now. We go up and down, so we have joys and despairs. In fact, sometimes I think a bit like sort of Formula One fans that are only fans of Red Bull or McLaren. That it's almost boring when you go along if you're Premier League, because they win 90% of their games. Liverpool, and so we won again. We won because they go there expecting to win. It's only very occasional when they lose, they all hands on football. All that, isn't it? Starts we lost again, and they go home to kill the cat. Whereas in Southampton, we're quite used to winning and losing, so you take everything in the mix. Which is why it's quite nice, sponsoring, following Williams Formula One team is almost more exciting, than following McLaren, because they go up and down the grid, and
If relegation was a reality in F1, that would be quite interesting. I think it would be a bit harsh, because the money involved, obviously, you drop out and whatever. But like, if you mess up and you're gone, and then someone else comes and has a crack, and then
they should relegate drivers, maybe.
Yeah.
The lowest driver. Well, I've got another brilliant plan of mine. So this frustration of drivers, like we've had quite a few Formula 2 champions that haven't made it.
Yeah.
Like Drogba's football. Drugovic, right? He's been the Aston Martin test driver for about 3 years now, having won the Formula 2 championship. Who's the Belgian boy that tried to get there? He's now ended up in America, then he got dropped from that. Did IndyCar. Anyway, he won the Formula 2 championship. French, not Belgian, French kid. That it's frustrating when you win the Formula 2 championship and then you don't become a Grand Prix driver. So you think, I've done everything I can, and then... So knowing that the lower teams, say Haas or I don't know, there aren't many lower teams that almost still got manufacturers. But anyway, so the FIA buy a seat in, say, Haas, right? So that seat is ours for the next season. And you will have the driver that will be in the Haas for the next season will be the Formula 2 champion.
Yeah.
So all year long, you're building up, imagine the last round, one of these two drivers is going to be a Grand Prix driver next year.
And you'll see them
FIA Haas.
First race of the season.
So, and that'd be a great way of making sure, only be for 1 year. So if you're not brilliant in that year and no other team picks you up, you'd be going to do sports cars. But at least for one season, you'd become a Grand Prix driver after all those years of that dream of getting there. That one seat would just be, you'd have it for 1 year. If you're not brilliant, you're out.
And I feel like that would be quite cool for sponsors. Like, because you could talk all about that, like how you're doing all the stuff, like you're actually helping. It's not just whatever billionaire's kid has come in.
He'll have to go. He's got to go soon.
He's got to go.
Keep embarrassing his father. If only his father would teach him some manners, the way he sits and drives with brief slouches, doesn't he? And just monosyllabic, that's a difficult word to say, monosyllabic answers. Terrible child.
It's tricky. It's tricky. How do you rate the current crop of drivers?
Well, you might have to listen to Love Cars on the Grid on Monday night when we're doing our half-term report to check that out. But
tune in.
There's several that need to go. I don't know, Stroll needs to go. And I think people like Alonso. I've got another brilliant idea. I should be in charge of the FIA. So now, if you haven't become world champion after, say, 200 Grand Prix, or maybe 300 Grand Prix, You have to retire.
Yeah.
Now, so now we've got quite a good thing. So at the beginning of the season, you'll know that this is Hulkenberg's last year.
Yeah.
He has to retire. So every Grand Prix, he has his little fan club and waves goodbye to Germany, waves goodbye to Spain, And we know there's going to be a spare seat as well. So maybe the Formula 2 champion might be thinking, I could have that seat. And then he can go off, have a wonderful career, earning more millions of pounds as a world sports car driver, or go to IndyCar. So it's not the end of his racing life. But look, you've had flipping 200 races in that seat. Was it 240? So 240, 24 a season now, isn't it? So for 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. You've hogged a Formula 1 seat. Yeah, it's a lot. And you haven't won sod all. Although we all went mad when Hulkenberg got his podium. And I was also extremely joyful to watch Hulkenberg got the podium, because he's a great driver. He's won them all, and he's just never quite been a superstar. Maybe because he never got the right car. So they'd have to retire unless you've been a world champion. World champions can stay on as long as they want. But if you haven't won the world title after 240 Grand Prix, jog on, as they'd say.
Fair enough.
And that would be good publicity all year. It's your, how are you feeling? This is your last Grand Prix season.
And what
I was actually thinking about Hulkenberg's third place, and I'd like some statistician to comment. Do you have comments below?
Comment below on the video.
Did he actually overtake anyone on the track? I'm intrigued to know, because it was all strategy. Because he started 19th, then he got from 19th to 3rd. I think he just stopped always at the
right time,
right moment, and leapfrog little groups.
But that is overtaking.
No, it's not. I know. A Formula 1 would have statisticians where they'd say, it was a brilliant season. At this race, we had 88 overtakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
In the pits.
8 in the pits. No. So I'd love to know that stat.
Yeah.
So who else would have to go? Well, Alonso's running out of time. I get bored with Alonso. I have to say, he's huge, wonderfully talented driver, great for the sport. But he's always a bit me. When he's not winning races, he always had to grab a little headline story just to
that's how he's stayed in. That's how he's still there.
I know.
What about Lewis?
But then
do you see Lewis being around for very long?
Lewis, no. Poor Lewis. He's got too much in his head now, and he wants to be a rock musician, wrong genre. He wants to be involved in music and fashion. He wants to do other things. The Ferrari's obviously a difficult car to drive, and he's not got his head around it, and so he gets worse.
Yeah, it's not.
I think last year should be, isn't that his last year? Maybe the Ferrari will be the car. These stupid new regulations. Don't get me started on the new regulations. Oh God. Oh. If he gets lucky and the Ferrari have got the formula right, he might win.
That would be
otherwise,
nice.
He won't win again. He might win a race, but
I just don't think Ferrari will win.
Too much. We don't know with these stupid regulations. We have no idea who's going to get the formula right.
Even if they get it right, they seem to get other stuff wrong. They just seem to fall apart. Like when they've got the fastest car, strategy's wrong.
Oh no.
Anyway, yeah.
What happened to Leclerc in the third session? Was his tyres, these planks, were the tyres pumped up so he wouldn't wear his plank down? I didn't know. That was one of the theories. Did they crank on a bit of wing? That was another theory.
Many theories.
He just went so much slower, didn't he? Just disappeared backwards.
Oh well.
Funny cars, these cars.
It is.
So who else? No, I don't know who else.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, I want Lando to win, but I think Oscar's going to win. That's the most depressing part about the season.
I think that's going to happen. And Lando, you've had your chance, unfortunately.
No, he hasn't. This is the first chance he's had in a McLaren to win the title.
Yeah, but his teammate's really fast.
Yeah, he's Australian. Australia is our deadly enemy. England, Australia, cricket,
I would
rugby,
like Lando
any sport. The Australians are our deadliest enemies.
Yeah.
We got this slightly boring, staid character.
British driver, British car. That would be good.
Well, exactly.
They're all kind of British cars, though, to be fair.
Well, yeah, that's true as well.
So we can claim that. Right. Well, I normally wrap these up with 5 questions. Are you ready?
Oh, gosh, I hate these things.
Do you have a most memorable driving trip or journey or possibly race?
See, I hate these things. Porsche 944 Turbo cruising back from Group C race in Dijon via Germany with the wife back home. And it was lovely. Porsche 944 Turbo, one of the most underrated cars. Tail turbo, had storage space, could go to Le Mans with sleeping bags in the back, put the rear seats down. That was my most epic sort of personal trip.
Yeah. Racing a
Obviously, I've
Porsche,
done
driving home in a Porsche.
road trips. Yeah, that's sort of nice journey.
Yeah. If I know I feel like you're into road cars, but like in the middle, you're a race driver. If you're going to drive one sports car for the rest of your life, what would it be?
McLaren F1.
McLaren F1. Not T50.
Was that a sports car? No, I haven't even driven that yet. Again, no, I don't. I haven't followed up on. I haven't got on the list. I mean, nothing to film and nowhere to film. I've got to go to a track, so I'm taking a T50 for a few roads up and down the road. There's no point really, is there? No, but I mean, anything rear wheel. I've got a BMW 3 Series Touring. I just had to buy a car. I had to buy a car after so many years of getting freebies.
Nightmare.
So 3 Series, and that M5's got too much power. I mean, it's a bit silly.
It's really heavy
now. The new one, it's got too much power and stuff. So nice little 3 Series Touring. You don't need too much power. I need space.
Rear wheel drive.
Obviously,
have a little bit of fun.
Rear wheel drive. Yeah.
Most interesting car to you at the moment?
My son's 20-year-old Vauxhall Corsa. Now, this is it. Well, this is interesting because it's what I talk about when I talk about electric cars and what they do and where we're at the moment. Because electric cars, if you've got money, you've got plug-in, if it suits your lifestyle and you don't give a toss about driving enjoyment at all, they're fine. They're commuter vehicles. You plug them in and don't commit. So, yeah, they're brilliant. But the people it's going to hit most are the less well-off, and the students of this world, flat dwellers. Because my son's got this actually it's more than that, he's 23 years old now, Vauxhall Corsa, bought for £1,000. And him and his mates went to the south of France and back with it last year. Great fun, Corsa. Whoa. It's down in my garage. It's been sawned at the moment because he's working up in London, doesn't need a car and stuff. But when I used to borrow it occasionally just for the fun.
Yeah.
And I drove up and down a very short drive, but just to warm the engine up, make sure the brakes weren't seals. And just the joy of sitting in it. 2 little round white dials and rev counter and thing, and little gearbox. It's got a lovely gearbox, of course, of that era. It's got a high revving engine, 16 valve, I think. And it just felt so light, just driving. I just thought, this is what we enjoyed so much. We drove these cars with gear levers and clutch pedals. You're involved with the driving. Now, in 20 years' time, there won't be an equivalent £1,000 car because the batteries, but they are lasting longer than we all expected batteries, to be fair to the battery world. But you're never going to put £30,000 worth of new batteries in a £1,000. That doesn't quite work, does it? So you're not going to re-battery a really old, tired electric car. And also the problem with smaller cars, they only go 100 miles. Like the Mini's about 120 miles in it. I mean, it's so small. So to go on a trip across Europe, even if there's a charging station at every petrol station, it's still going to be a nightmare of a logistical thing. So it's really for those people, what are they going to... And I think they want to push everyone into public transport almost. If you're poor, you've got to go on a bus. So I don't really know. That's what saddens me, that the kids that turn up on, Sunday car meets, we have at Thruxley occasionally, they all open the bonnets and their little 16 valves and they polish things up and they put exhausts and there's a car culture out there that I think we try to ignore, that there is actually a lot of people that love cars and polishing them and cleaning them and putting new headlight bulbs in them or something, And that's what it interests me most, what's going to happen to that sort of type of car.
Yeah.
Because they're so much fun to drive and they're going to disappear.
And it is so refreshing. I kind of forget. I have a little EV is like my run around, and then I've got some nice sports cars and stuff. But I kind of forgot what a light hatchback was like to drive, because our little EV is like 1,500 kilos or something. Yeah. Rented a car abroad, and I can't remember what it was. Some like kind of rubbishy thing. And it was really light. And you're just like, oh, wow, instantly this is fun. Even though it's like not fast, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it's fun. It's responsive.
Do you ever drive the Alpine A110?
I have.
I drove one of those about 6 months ago.
What did you think?
Wonderful. Apart from some interior design that's put a hexagonal stupid steering wheel on the flipping thing. God, they annoy me. But I mean, what a joy, just and the pop bang bang on the overrun. I mean, that's artificial, but it just makes you smile. Yeah. Like, well, I'm going to accelerate again. I'm going to lift off, and it's going to pop bang bum bum bum. And it's just so light, and you feel the road through the steering, through the seat of your pants. And that's what, whether it's driving a McLaren F1 or a 24-year-old Vauxhall Corsa.
Yeah.
That's what makes me smile.
Yeah.
And that won't be available to people in 20 years' time.
And that sensation that a car, I had what was it, Fiesta ST, the final edition, whatever, for a weekend or a week or something. And just that sensation when you turn on a road at road speeds into a corner and you feel the back go, maybe I'll come round. Maybe. Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, this car's alive.
It's alive. Alive. That is the word. EVs are dead. Old-fashioned petrols tend to be alive.
Final question. 5-car garage. Unlimited value.
Garage not that big. Well, there's a McLaren F1.
McLaren F1.
There's various BMW M3s from different eras, which I can't always remember the best number. I'll probably we'll start with the M5 with the V10 engine in it. Whichever. I don't remember my F numbers.
Yeah, I think it's that F10.
So I've got my supercar. Then I've got my M5 with a V10 in it. A Lotus Elise, original Lotus Elise. Now, again, I remember doing that story. And I think ended it in the phone box, talked to my wife, said I can't come home because I'm just driving the most joyful car to drive. So that was a revelation. A Morris 1000, because that is the most fun car, which I learned to drive on. I have a convertible in the garage with the hood down, so it's just ready to just go out to the pub in. Morris 1000 convertible, Elise.
So
I've got the saloon car. I've got the M3s. I've got an M5 with my saloon car. It's not M5 saloon car. I've got my dual sports car. I've got my old car. God, I've got to think of something else, have I?
Would you have a race car?
Oh. Well, I got my racing car. Yeah, I've got my Lotus 69 that I won in the magazine competition. That's in my garage already. It's the only thing. I always loved it when I played charity golf days and stuff, and these people that have sold their plumbers company are talking about them. They've got the new Ferrari. They had a Lamborghini. I had a couple of Porsches. Now I've got a Ferrari. But what do you think? What have you got in your garage, then, Tiff? I said, well, I've got my little old racing car, and I've got my mower, flail mower, and my quad bike, and that's it. But you haven't got any lamp? No. I've never bought any hyper, super, anything. I haven't bought a car for 40 years. My thing's going to have something. Low battery. I'm on a low battery.
Oh, can you plug in? We're nearly at the end.
No.
We're close.
No. It's still working. It's still working.
It's still working.
Goodbye quick.
We'll keep going. Well, there you go. You've got your 5 things. And
yeah, I've got 5% on my battery.
Well, thanks very much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, it's been enjoyable, but thank you for taking me back through my memories. I forget some of the stuff. I have to, be reminded myself.
Well, thanks very much.